Hello and welcome along to another edition of Team Talks. And what a show we've got in store for you today. 10 teams will be in action on Saturday. And then, what a treat, a mega 5-game Super Sunday headlined by Chelsea against Arsenal and Tottenham versus Liverpool. So we begin the weekend with 4 fixtures kicking off simultaneously on Saturday as Manchester City have the chance to go back to the top of the table should they beat Fulham at the Etihad, before Everton play host to Leicester in the late fixture. And then what a start to a Super Sunday. Chelsea welcome Arsenal to Stamford Bridge before Unai Emery's first game in charge of Aston Villa as his side face Manchester United, alongside 2 other games, Southampton against Newcastle and West Ham against Crystal Palace, before we round off the weekend's action with Spurs versus Liverpool. And joining me to preview all of the matches this weekend, former Leeds striker Jermaine Beckford, alongside assistant editor of The Mirror, Darren Lewis. Good to see you both. And we find ourselves at the penultimate Premier League weekend before the World Cup break. European football group stages is now over. That's been a bit of a slog, hasn't it? But all the teams are through. Spurs just about getting the job done on the final day.
Ever so slightly. Wow. They know how to do it difficult, don't they? Yeah. Everything about it was so slow and methodical. But look, they got the job done. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, all of the Premier League teams doing pretty well. Manchester United, though, not quite getting the job done. They have to play that extra playoff round, meaning they've got an extra couple of games in February. We saw Harry Maguire playing up front for Erik ten Hag. What a treat that was.
Yeah, I think you might well, Erik ten Hag, get the video of that and show it to the board in the January transfer window.
Was that the plan, do you reckon?
That they need another striker. I think as far as the strength of the Premier League is concerned, what this truncated group stage has shown us is that it's still as strong as ever. All of the English teams that were in, they've managed to get through to the knockout stages, whether it's the elite competition or the second-tier European competition. And I think the quality of player that we have in here has been decisive in those matches to just get them over the line in the case of Tottenham, but also in the case of Manchester City as well. I mean, they did it so easily. And yeah, it is a real statement about the quality of the product that we have in this country.
Yeah, there's been lots of change at Aston Villa this season, something the players have had to get used to, and this weekend they face Manchester United. It's time, though, to hear from the new Aston Villa boss, Unai Emery.
I am happy to be here. I decided to come here because it's a great project, and our ambition is going to be together. I think our players now, they are under performance. And my idea first is to try to help them, to have possibilities to improve, but at the beginning is take confidence, trust in each player, and to play together and create a good atmosphere inside, and to show everybody our best wishes to improve and to help the team.
Yes, hi Erik. Based on your team selection tonight, just following up on that other question, would it be fair to say that Victor is now your third choice centre-back?
I have to think about that. I have to see Aston Villa, and that's going to be a difficult one because we don't know. And there's a new manager in. So I have to have a look and analyze from that game, from that team, and then we have a choice. But what I just said, I think Licha and Victor played really well together over some more games, but I think also that Licha and Harry last Sunday against West Ham United also clean sheet, and they did also really well. So it's a choice we have to make. But when I choose one, that is nothing against the other.
The England squad gets named next week. There's 3 more games now. And do you think Harry will get minutes? And is it not your problem in terms of him in England, whether he has match action before that World Cup squad gets named?
We have to win with Manchester United, clear, and I hope that we perform well and that we, that the England manager take as much as possible players from Manchester United in his squad. Clear.
Samuel.
Erik, do you expect any of the forwards to be available at the weekend? Sancho, Anthony or Martial, will any of them be fit?
It's difficult to say in this moment. I have to talk with the medical, with performance. They did their program in Manchester. I have to hear how their progress was and if they can be available for Sunday match.
And obviously Bruno's suspended on Sunday. Do you have an idea of how you're going to cope without him, or was that a trial for Van der Beek this evening?
Also that we have to replace Bruno, quite clear. We have to see how we replace him, and we have to think about that. But it's short after the game, and hopefully you can understand. I will have minimum one night to think about that.
Yeah.
Does there come a point with Van der Beek where you maybe have to accept that it's just not worked for him coming to Manchester United?
Yes, but that can't be, but not now, because he had, I think, a quite good pre-season. He was injured. Now we work back. Last week he came in and I think he played very well, 15 minutes, and also today I think it was a decent performance. And I know he can do better because I know him very well. But I think he acted and he delivered what I expect in terms of positioning, also pressing, in terms of transition, in terms of, I think, also accuracy. But I think he can be more, and that's his biggest quality. He can be more threat to opponent's goal.
And why do you think it hasn't maybe worked for him in the period he's been here?
I don't know. I can only talk about my time here, and in the time I'm here, he's performing well in the games, and in the game time we gave him.
Last question.
Just one more on Maguire and Luke Shaw. In your opinion, will England have a defence that's good enough to win the World Cup with Luke Shaw starting at left back and Harry Maguire starting at centre back?
Oh, I think England is definitely one of they make a really good chance to win the World Cup because they have a really strong squad, and so for me, he's one of the favourites for the World Cup, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
It is great to have Unai Emery back in the Premier League at Aston Villa, and he's set his ambitions high. He said he wants to win a trophy with the club. What do you make of the appointment?
I think it's a fabulous appointment. Plundered the Europa League, of course, with Sevilla, won it with Villarreal as well, defied all the people who didn't rate him when he was at Arsenal, because the Villarreal team that he'd led to silverware, it was made up of a number of players that couldn't cut it with Premier League clubs. But he is a guy who knows how to get the sum of the parts together, get them functioning well, get them working hard. What he needs at Villa is time. I don't think Dean Smith had enough time. They threw him overboard after he got them promoted at first sign of trouble. I don't think Steven Gerrard had enough time. Because you need to be able to build. He lost Gerrard, he brought in a centre-half, Diego Carlos from Sevilla, lost him straight away. So straight away your defensive base is affected. Coutinho, 1 goal in I think 20-odd appearances. He needs more reinforcements, and I think as far as the club are concerned, if you don't give people the time to build, how are they going to be able to get the kind of results that Emery was able to get with Villarreal and with Sevilla?
Well, from watching them this season, Jermaine, what do you think is the thing he needs to focus on first?
Defence, straight away. Look, if you're conceding goals and you're not scoring goals, you need to address something quickly. And the first thing is you stop the goals, because you're starting off every game with a point. So if you're stopping people from scoring, then you're leaving yourself with an opportunity, a chance to come away from the game with a minimum of point, possibly 3. But then on the other side of that, you've got a great wealth of attacking experience in that team. You've got Danny Ings, you've got Ollie Watkins, there's Leon Bailey, Buendia, you've got Coutinho, there's Ramsey. There's so many really, really clever, intelligent, smart football players on that pitch that can cause problems for opposition defenders. They, for me, speaking as a forward, need to be free. Just let them express themselves. Don't put too many instructions in their ears. Just let them rotate as they need to. Let them flow, and you'll see the results. We saw it almost immediately after Steven Gerrard lost his job. They won 4-0 straight away against a difficult Brentford side. So just give them the freedom.
Yeah. But then they lost 4-0 last weekend. It's consistency, isn't it? And that's one of the things Unai Emery is going to need to work on. Is one of the other problems he needs to solve, figuring out how to be able to get Buendia and Coutinho in the same team and making it effective, because they're both fantastic players.
Yeah, I ultimately don't think they will end up in the same team. I think you're right, they're both fantastic players, but I think that Aston Villa side needs protection for the back four as an urgent priority. I know, for example, that he tried to sign Rodrigo Bentancur before Spurs moved in, and then Villa had no chance. Bentancur wanted to go to London. But had he been able to sign a Bentancur and then get Kamara, the midfielder that they signed from, I think it was Lille they signed him from, then maybe they would have had some protection for that back four. They don't have it at the moment. It's far too easy to play against Aston Villa. I don't even think, I can tell you now, they won't win this game. They've taken 1 point from 14 matches against teams in the top 6. They've conceded 33 goals. Man United are a well-oiled machine right now. They are not going to win this game. I know you can sack me if they do win this game. but I think as far as Villa are concerned, he will be looking at the players he needs to bring in January as a starting point to changing this team.
As you say, it's a tough first game for Unai Emery. Manchester United, the visitors, and they've been in such good form recently. They're unbeaten in 9 matches in all competitions. Have you been impressed with the way Erik Ten Hag has managed to turn things around after what was an awful first 2 games of the season?
I have been relatively impressed, to be honest. They're not necessarily playing really exciting football, but they're getting the job done. They're picking up results, not necessarily only wins, but they're picking up draws in difficult games as well. And that's something that we've not seen from Manchester United in a long time. You know, they get under a little bit of pressure and then they crumble and concede a goal. That's what we're used to seeing over the last 18 months to 2 years. But you look at the last results there. 1 loss in the last however many games it was, 5 or 6.
6.
No, 6 in the Premier League. They look like they've turned a corner. They look like they're playing with confidence. A lot of the younger players as well, Marcus Rashford being a leader out of those younger players, look like they're happy again. Look like they've got that hunger, that desire back again. And he started to do things that I enjoyed watching him do a year and a half, 2 years ago. He started picking the ball up and being positive, driving at pace against the defenders, towards the defenders.
Do you know why that is? It's because they've got a plan now, and they don't rely on players that they sign for commercial value. They rely on grafters, guys that maybe when they sign them you're not that impressed, but suddenly you see them start to play and you see where the money's gone. Lisandro Martinez at centre-half's been outstanding. All this nonsense about his height. He's got positional awareness. He reads the game superbly well, and he works and he denies you time and space.
Good pass on him as well, hasn't
Honestly, I mean, this guy is a fabulous footballer, and I think he's made a lot of people eat their words so far. And I think you're right, the culture around the club has changed so much that the players that were being written off by fans and neutrals under the previous regimes, they're suddenly getting a second lease of life, and they're showing us what they can do. And I'm most pleased for Rashford, as you were saying, because I think a lot of people wrote him off prematurely. And I'm glad he stayed, and I'm glad he is now showing that it would be absolute madness not to take him to the World Cup.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Last week he scored his 100th goal for Manchester United, which is an amazing milestone for him to reach at his age.
Yeah.
The trouble is with Manchester United at the moment, despite all of those positive things we've said, they're struggling to score plenty of goals in matches. We saw that in the Europa League in the week. They needed to score 2 and not concede in order to go through as group winners. They couldn't get that second goal.
Yeah.
They've got injuries in their attack. Anthony's injured. Anthony Martial is injured as well. Ronaldo's not the Ronaldo we're used to. So how do they solve that?
Not by putting Maguire up front. I don't know what he was thinking.
He was desperate. Try everything.
All that is, they're creating chances, they're creating opportunities, they're testing the opposition goalkeepers. All I would say is move the ball a little bit quicker and be a bit more, have a little bit more self-belief when you're in front of goal. Blank out all the noise, which is easy. It's easy to say when you're sitting down, but you know, just understand that when you're in front of goal, within 15, 18 yards of the goal, put your foot through the ball. Have confidence in your abilities. That's literally it.
I expect them to sign a striker in January. I think they'll go big for maybe the Napoli striker, Victor Osimhen.
He's fantastic.
He's a fabulous footballer, very physical, great pace.
Direct.
Very direct. And I think they need that kind of investment in January because they're on a fantastic run of wins and games. And I think if they get that added striker and that maybe that player who you know all about it, they make you think to yourself, oh, I better raise my game here. Suddenly, it could be a game changer for them in terms of the top four.
Top four? No title race this season?
No
just
title
top four?
Title race? No.
No?
Nope.
Completely out of it?
Leave it alone.
Leave it out. All right, let's move on and talk about Man City, who are in the title race.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Normal services resumed.
They face...
and with what was at stake with this game, it was, I think, a surprise. But more than that, when they took the lead, second half, it wasn't like they peppered the Sociedad goal. And a bit baffled by his interview after the game, Erik ten Hag. Don't always get what you deserve. I didn't think they deserved to win the game by any more than 1-0. I actually don't think they deserved to win the game. I thought it was a pretty even game. But with what was at stake, they had to play with greater desperation towards the end.
And it was interesting to hear Ten Hag talking about, the positives, that they played well. And there was, other comments as well about how they're continuing their winning run, unbeaten in 9. And that's all well and good. But they had a job to do tonight.
Yeah.
And in that second half, they just didn't perform.
It's almost like they're, I wouldn't say happy losing or winning the game 1-0, but it was like they were saying, well, we're happy with a clean sheet. So they're trying to protect things. They're trying to protect the momentum that they've got. But you go back to the starting lineup as well, and Donny van der Beek playing as the 10, who you rightly said has not started a game for Man United in 11 months, which then shifted Bruno out of his position. He normally plays as the 10 where he's been really good lately. He then had to go into a wider position. Then he mentioned in that interview, Ten Hag, where he was mentioning about the players, once he made the substitutions, were quite erratic. Well, that didn't really stack up. It didn't really add up because they went even more erratic at the end of the game when they put Harry Maguire as a centre forward. And it was desperation in the end. And in the end, you were just seeing a Man United team that ran out of ideas. Everyone was narrow, played 5 up front, just launched it in the box. Really? Is that the best they could come up with? I understand the situation when you're desperate for a goal. You try and risk things. But the goalkeeper didn't make a save in the second half, the Sociedad goalkeeper. So I'm not really buying where Bruno and Erik ten Hag were coming from in terms of they played well, they took risks, they should have got more out of the game. It's not the game I watched.
And they shot themselves in the foot earlier on in the campaign, didn't they? Even, didn't take chances against Omania. Erik ten Hag talking about the penalty. Okay, it was a poor award at Old Trafford, but they still had it in their hands and was what was at stake. Now, they've caused themselves a bit of a problem. There'll be so many games coming thick and fast, and they're going to have a tricky draw, whoever they get.
Yeah, whoever they get. We'll be looking at that in a moment. But let's take a look at the goal, because they got half the job done in the first half. They needed to win by 2 clear goals. I mean, this is a great one from a real bright spark, Alejandro Garnacho. Talk us through this one, because it was
incredible.
It was an incredible setup and an incredible take as well.
Well, Man United paid close to £90 million for Jadon Sancho to do this sort of job. And what I like about it, there's lots of things to like about the finish, but it's his aggression on the halfway line. The ball from Ronaldo is a good one. Then he's aggressive. He takes a couple of little touches at full speed, which is really hard to do. Youngster trying to practice this, it's really important that you keep the ball close to your feet. Then running at full speed, once you 1v1 with the goalkeeper, make sure you hit the target, make sure you finish it high. And I thought he was a really bright spot for Man United. I thought Martinez at the back is now becoming one of the first names on the team sheet. He's aggressive. He put in a really good performance, but Garnacho, what a young player, what an exciting prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. But interesting to hear Bruno Fernandes talking about him in pre-season, saying he didn't have the right attitude. I mean, possibly a bit too honest in that interview. I mean, what did you make of that?
Totally unnecessary. The message which I think Erik ten Hag wants coming out of Manchester United is that it's harmonious. Now, I was really surprised at that. He, could have used a different language. Garnacho had a brilliant game tonight. He was the one real threat Manchester United had. So I don't get that from Bruno. He's better than that.
OK, well, let's take a look at who they could play now, because they have put themselves in this tricky position where they face a playoff. 2 extra games now in February, which I'm sure Erik ten Hag would want to do without. And these are, of course, the teams that have dropped down from the Champions League. They finished 3rd in their groups, and these are huge teams. I mean, Erik ten Hag could face his former club in Ajax, as Bayer Leverkusen, Barcelona, Sporting, Salzburg, Shakhtar Donetsk, Sevilla, of course, the kings of the Europa League, and Juventus as well.
Tough, innit?
It's
You wouldn't want to face Barca. You wouldn't want to face Ajax. I covered Juventus against PSG. They lost the game last night, but they were very, very good, Juve. They're starting to go through the gears a little bit in Serie A. 3 wins on the spin. And you look at those teams there and you think, whoever they get, it's going to be tough.
You'd want Leverkusen. They're not doing so well in the Bundesliga, so they would be the one. Xabi Alonso in charge there. But the rest of the teams, I mean, awkward draw.
Very awkward. They've got 6 games in 22 days in February now as well. And it just makes the whole process of either doing well in this competition and if they want to finish in the top 4, the European places, they've just opened up a can of worms, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, fact is, he's coming this season, Ten Hag. It was never going to be easy for him, but they've put themselves under unnecessary pressure. They should have been ruthless with this group. At the start of the campaign, we thought United would finish top, and they're second and have caused themselves a problem.
Yeah. OK.